Hello, everybody out there in radio land. You are tuned in to The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is New York State's #1 conservative talk show. We are here in your ear having the conversations you need to hear. Thank you for tuning in. We're on WRFZ 106.3 FM right here in the city of Rochester. We're going to have the conversations that we need to be having and talk about some very important things that don't always get to be talked about. So share this with your friends, your family, your neighbor up the street, your enemy down the street, and everybody else in between. Now, we've got a great show for you. We're going to hop into it and we're going to rip a couple of Band-Aids off real quick. But as we go into it, I want you guys to understand we are right in the precipice of an election cycle, right? Now, for most people, this is a local election cycle. Where I live, we've got early voting that opens up October 25th through November 2nd. And then we've got a regular election day, which is November 4th. And I'm going to be on the ballot for city council this year. So you guys could vote for me if you want to. Definitely vote for me, even if you don't want to. Tell some other people to vote for me. But anyway, it's about us getting active, right? And if we don't get active, nobody else is going to get active for us. I encourage you guys to check out my website. You guys can even donate on there if you want to or whatever. Marcus the number 4, Rochester.com. You don't have to be local to donate. But we've got a large assortment of different candidates that are running this year. And I don't have anything positive to say about not near one of them that's running for city council. We got a couple people running for mayor this year. And there's only one guy that's really running that's pretty decent. And that's probably part of the big problem with politics. When we have decent candidates that are running, there aren't a lot of news outlets covering the real decent candidates, because why would you want somebody that's actually going to do right by the people? Why would you want somebody that actually cares about the people in the community and stuff like that? And far too often we see this, especially in local elections. People just, they're like, oh, well, it's not a big deal. I'm not going to bother with my local elections. You know, nothing's going to change anyway. Well, this is the issue that we have. Everybody's so distracted by the federal level government. They'll say, oh, Orange Man bad, or oh, Biden bad, and all of this and all of that. It doesn't matter who's in office on the federal level for the president. You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't matter. That's a distraction from local politics. All politics are local. And it is the economy, stupid. Okay, you know, quoting what's his name, Jim Carville, you know, the Democrat strategist. He was right the whole time. It's always the economy. And right now, wherever you live, most of the issues with the economy are local. You know, jobs, enterprise, stuff like that. Largely supplies and costs of goods. There are some things that do end up being international or national based, and that has to do with the supply chain and stuff like that. Kevin, I see you. Hi, Kevin. I got a troll saying nasty things to me. I don't know what that's about. Sorry, Kevin, that you don't love your life. You need a hug. Or maybe you got too many hugs. Maybe that's the problem. But, you know, that's how it is. People don't actually want to say, okay, where can I make a difference? Where is the real impact being made? And I'll tell you this, it's being made in two places, in your local and town council, and then on your state level. Now, some of you don't have a town or city council. You might just be in a county, but those are where the impacts are things that you can change. Like, you can actually work with your local legislators. And that's what's so important about the First Amendment. It gives us the right to redress our grievances with our government. I got a long list of them, you know, let me count my list. You know, it's very interesting when we look at how much of a distraction the federal government is. You know, everybody distracts you with the president, but they don't talk about Congress. And I tell you, like I always tell you, I'm not a big fan of Congress. There's probably only 3 out of the couple hundred people in there that I even really pump with at all. You know, and there are a couple of other ones that I think are okay, but that I really pump with, it's only like 3 of them. But this is what the whole issue is. If we don't know what levels of government do what and impact our lives daily, then what are we doing? We can't make the change that needs to be made. And I know people are like, well, Marcus, voting doesn't change anything. Voting doesn't. That's not true, you guys. You got to get out. You got to vote. I see you guys there. Oh, thank you for reposting. Search Warrant says they're reposting the show. Thank you guys for reposting. Hit the share button, hit the like button, repost this, get this out of there, get this out there, share it with everybody. So when we see what's going on and we see where can we make a change, it's always on the local level. Everything else is a distraction. Okay. The question is, how are your local schools working? How are your local businesses getting along? Are your roads taken care of well? Is crime high? And where we see a lot of these issues, it ends up coming from things like, well, local government. Let's look at the schools, for instance. Now, it might be a little different where you live, but I live in New York State. So really, we have different school districts, and the state operates all of the school districts as a whole. They give them this thing called the framework, which tells them what they basically have to do, and they have to align with it. And now the government the state government is trying to make it so that the actual private schools, like charter schools and regular private schools and religious schools and Christian schools and stuff like that, like they have to do everything that the state says that they should, that they can't choose for their own. Wait a second. How are you going to tell me if I'm running a private school or if I'm doing homeschooling, right? That I have to follow the dictates and the edicts from you as the state. The state can't get right. This is why I'm not a big fan of government as a whole. People say, well, Marcus, why are you working to get involved with government and stuff like that? Because I know how trash it is. Like in the more better people that we have in there, we can actually start to make some change. Because you can't tell me that, oh, well, the state should tell me what I should be teaching my child in the privacy of my home. Excuse me, where does the state get off? You're going to tell me that, oh, well, the students at the private school have to learn all of this alphabetization. Excuse me, where does the state get off? But more than that, where does the state get off telling you what you need to teach your child at all? That's a big question. That's a big, big, big question. Because it's very clear from me for the state that I live in, specifically New York, but I know there's a ton of them that are very similar, like Michigan, California, and a number of other ones. We're not going to go down the list of terrible schools in the country, but we look at them, and in New York State, the school district is like not the school district, but the school, I forget what you call it, the Board of Education, like the total aggregate of all the schools in the state are trash. Like we got terrible education here in the States, especially in the major cities. You might have one or two schools that you can pick out and say, oh, well, that's a good school. This is a good school. But the fact of the matter is that the schools that are tied directly to the government, they're not teaching the children anything. They're terrible. And I look at the schools here in the city where I live in Rochester, and every single year schools are closing down. Schools are closing down. Well, why are schools closing down? Well, for one reason, because we've got less students now than ever, because they've been telling everybody to abort your babies, kill your babies and stuff like that, which is crazy. That's a whole separate conversation. Maybe we'll touch on that a little bit later. But the fact of the matter is when we have these serious conversations about the education system, and the state are the people who are supposed to run the education system, but the quality education for the children is we're graduating people that are functionally illiterate. What are we really, really doing? We have very, very serious, I see you commenting there. We have very serious issues in our school district. And every year they close more and more schools, but not just closing the schools. Also, on top of that, we've got schools that are getting taken over by the state, that are going into receivership from the state, because the scores are so low in our schools that they are basically useless. We've got the second lowest proficiency score in the whole nation in Rochester, but we pay the second highest per student in the nation. Make it make sense to me. We got $1.4 billion. We spend like $45,000 per child. Make it make sense. We can send all the kids to Harvard. All of the kids can go to Montessori schools. All of them can be put in Kumon. You know what I'm saying? What are we really doing? Because the results for the money that's being paid, it's just not there. And we have to understand that the educational quality impacts everything. It impacts our economy. It impacts the cost of housing. It impacts public services. It impacts crime and all of that and more. But the state is the one that are putting these things out there right now. Very concerning thing that they're doing is they're getting rid of Regents exams. Where we live in New York State, Regents exams is like the lowest base level of proficiency to graduate. And the issue with that is, as they're getting rid of those, they have nothing to replace it. They also want to get rid of the AP tests, which are the advanced placement. They want to get rid of the IB test, which is the International Baccalaureate. That's like the level above AP. And they're getting rid of all type of other special education for high performers. They just don't want the children to be able to perform and be challenged. And they're like, oh, it's discriminatory. Discriminatory for who? Like if children aren't challenged, like you're shrinking the children, right? Like that's what they're doing. Like the horrible expense that is paid by society, that when it goes into the crime and the economy and stuff like that, is because of the issues with low expectations of our students. If we treat them as less, they're going to perform as less. If you tell them to shoot for the stars, at least they might make it to the moon, But this is what happens when you continuously lower standards. So if the school system is decaying and trash, and the state's whole rubric is changing and being diminished for like people that are remedial, why are we even like, okay, homeschoolers and private schools and charter schools have to listen to the mandate of the state? Clearly, the state isn't doing so well with educating the children. I believe that the education should be on the local level, that we should be able to have the city board of education should be able to decide what the children are learning for each city or maybe county, depending on how your area is structured. We don't need somebody from the state to tell us what to do, because what they need in the education system in Albany is different than what they need in the education in Schenectady. Albany don't know what jobs are in Schenectady. That's a whole separate conversation. There's more in depth there for another time. But like I can't tell you what the school district in Waterloo needs in order to hold up their economy down there. I can tell you what Rochester needs. You understand what I'm saying? And the craziest thing to me when it comes to the school systems, hit the like button and hit the share. Just take 2 seconds, hit the like button, hit the share. The craziest thing to me when it comes to the school system is this. If you are in the public school system, your taxes are going to the public school system. But if you're homeschooling, your taxes are going to the public school system. If you're in a private school, your taxes are going to the city school district. You know what I'm saying? Well, what is up with that? What is up with that? The money should follow the children. If you're going to homeschool, you should be able to get a tax credit for that. Okay? Or tax write-off even. Like you shouldn't even have to pay taxes on that, right? Like not a tax credit. Don't give somebody back their money. Don't force them to give it to begin with. That's a whole nother thing that the state does that's crazy. And even the federal government does that, and it bothers me so bad. You're like, oh, well, ho-hum, we're going to take your money, and then we're going to give you a little small microscopic bit back and say that we did something. Kathy Hochul's doing that right now with these sales tax refund checks that she's sending out, trying to buy people's vote for next year. Why are you charging us so much in sales tax? Just lower the sales tax. What are you talking about? Oh, we're going to give you like $100 to $400 back. No. Lower sales tax. What are you talking about? Why are you taking so much? And where I live, it's 8% sales tax. In certain states, in certain parts of the state, it's different. It depends on where you live. But stop charging us so much. She's like, well, we've gotten more money coming in from the sales tax than we thought that we would have. So lower the sales tax, woman. What are you doing, Kathy? Man, I hope we get somebody better in office next year. I don't know if Elise Stefanik is going to run or whatnot. It looks like she might. And I know they got Dialgo or whatever his name is. That's the Democrat guy that's going to run against Kathy. That's her current lieutenant governor, which is weird, right? Like her lieutenant governor is running against her. That's kind of crazy. What's really going on? But that's just downstate maneuvering. We'll talk about that some other time. But this is a whole big problem that we're having right now. And nobody's willing to talk about it. The government in New York State, like many blue states, is failing us as the citizens. They just are, and that's a fact. And I know people will be like, oh, well, the Republicans this, the Republicans that. We don't have any Republicans to be mad at. The Republicans don't control anything in our state. The state assembly, all Democrats. The state Senate, all Democrats. The governor, Democrat. Lieutenant governor, Democrat. The, what do you call them? Comptroller, Democrat. Attorney general, Democrat. Show me the Republican that I can be mad at that's in charge of these policies. None of them. It's not the Republicans. And this is why I encourage people to think past these parties and this teamification that we have in our nation right now, because what it becomes is you're like, oh, well, that person is part of my team. I'm using air quotes if you can't see me on the radio, y'all. That person is part of my team, so my team can do no wrong. Well, that's not a fact. That's far from it. You need to be questioning your team more than you're questioning anybody else, because your team is the people that are supposed to be representing you. And trust and believe, if I see something that I believe is not for conservative values or is outside of the realm of the Republican fundamental philosophies, I'm going to speak on it. I'm going to speak on it because that's my job as a Republican, is to stand up on those points. But what I don't see is Democrats standing up. Like, they're pushing all types of crazy stuff through, and they're infighting and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the Democrats aren't even serving the population of Democrats in the areas that they're in. And the scariest thing is they continue to get away with it because of the teamification. This is the problem. And we see this all across our nation. Like right now, we see an issue with the Republicans, right? Like, so some Republicans are like questioning if we should support foreign governments and stuff like that, and if they have too much influence in our own nation. Okay, specifically, the biggest one right now that's being questioned is Israel. So people are saying that that's making a rift in the Republican Party and stuff like that. Rift? What rift? Why can I not question if a foreign government should have the ability to actually flex its will on the United States government when I live in the United States? Stop playing in my face. That's what we're not doing. I can't question the government when their president is in court right now for corruption charges. It's like third, fourth time. You're gonna tell me I can't question that? Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop. I question my government all the time. Listen, I know how my government gets down. You understand what I'm saying? Like, speaking of governments getting down crazy. So you guys might remember, if you follow me for some time, when we were in COVID, there was a whole bunch of crazy, weird fog going on, you know, and I was like, this fog is really weird and stuff like that. And then I was like, something's not right about this fog. And then I was doing some research for another project earlier. And it was crazy to me that I found out that the CIA was working on these chemical compounds, and they sprayed all these chemical germs into San Francisco and made a whole bunch of people really sick because they sprayed it in under the fog because they knew that the fog would weigh down the germs. That's crazy. But that's our government. That's what our government does. So I know what our government does. So you mean to tell me I can't question somebody else's government? Stop playing in my face. You understand? But they'll say, oh, well, there's a lot of infighting in the Republicans over that and this, that, and the third, da, 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 da. Well, I'm glad somebody's standing up. I'm glad somebody's standing up. But where are the Democrats that are standing up against the communists and socialists in their party? They won't even speak ill of them, and they know that it's tearing their party apart and their policies are bad. not just for their party, but for our nation. And they're destructive. But nobody's standing against that. And this is part of the big issue. We have to have these conversations. I see quite a few comments coming in here. IDK, I see you here. I see you got a couple of different things here. Let's see what you got. They got rid of the IEPs because they don't have enough room for them. That's for the people with like special needs that are like, you don't say retarded anymore, but disabled or whatever. I don't know what they're calling them. I don't know. Honestly, I don't care. So those are the people that have additional special needs, not like the people that are accelerated learners. And that's a whole nother problem with, again, policies. They are eroding our educational system and they're taking resources from people that need it the most. And IEPs also are behavioral issues, so it's not all mental stuff too. We got, yeah, IDK says we can't even get a real job. That's true. With the quality of education, most of the people are graduating, they can't read, they can't write. IDK says and RG&E is going up, and that goes into the energy policies. And we can talk about the Democrats in the state on that. Again, I wish there was a Republican to be mad at, but it's no Republicans to be mad at. It's only Democrats in power. So how am I gonna be mad at somebody else? The Democrats are making it right now so that starting next year, you can't have gas in your house if you need to replace stuff. You understand? If you need to do a new build, you can't have gas. Now, in New York State, it gets dreadfully cold. Dreadfully cold. Okay, so cold that people have a history of freezing to death in New York State. They're also trying to make it so you can't even have propane or kerosene. I don't know who's using kerosene for house heating, but they're trying to make that go away too. Okay? So these are serious conversations we need to have. And again, it goes back to policy. Who's in charge of the policy? And that's why we need to get active locally and on the state level. It's not the federal government. It's not the president that's doing that. That's here local. And we have to ask ourselves, what is being done to us? You know, prioritization is very, very important. And IDK says it's because they never fixed it in the 50s. I'd say really more that was in the 60s and 70s, Lyndon B. Johnson time. Okay, talking about RG&E going up like 30%. That's our energy provider here. That also is a problem, is energy keeps going up here. Energy keeps going up in New York State, but they're getting rid of gas. Natural gas in New York State makes up for at least about 51% of our energy right now. So you're saying you want to get rid of that? What are you really doing? You know, you want to get rid of all of the energy production that we have? Stop it. Stop playing with me. But they've ended a number of pipeline projects for natural gas. They've completely stopped new drill leases for natural gas in New York State. And they've shut down a whole bunch of natural gas refineries with no way to make up for the offset, you know, because they'll say, oh, well, we can do solar panels and this and that. That's not practical in New York State, and they know it, you know, but they're getting their kickbacks and their money in their pockets and stuff like that. So they do what they feel like. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, you can't even get anybody to say the truth. You're right. This is a serious problem. And then when people do try to cover the truth and stuff like that, they try to shut them down and they try to make it like, oh, things aren't important or this, that, and the third, and they'll try to minimize it. So this is why I always try to have these conversations with you guys. Like, let's go back to the communists and the socialists inside the Democrat Party. Let's talk about that and how those policies are bad. You know, right now, there's this resurgence of people feeling like the economy isn't working for them. So they're like, oh, communism sounds good because it's promising me free stuff and everything's going to be better under communism, you know? And people will say, well, it's not communism, it's socialism, whatever. It's communism. You're pushing for further government control of all of the industries in the nation. And that's not what I'm about. I want less government control. The government control that they do have, like we discussed earlier, the government can't even control themselves. The government can't govern themselves. Why do I want them to have more power over private industry? Why do I want them to have more power over our children or the education system? Why do I want that? Why would I want that? That's stupid. I'm not stupid. Are you stupid? I don't think you're stupid. If you're watching my show, you're probably not stupid. Okay? Hit the like button, hit the share button, get this out there. It don't cost you nothing. Hit the retweet, and let's have real conversations. Drop a comment, we'll make you part of the conversation. So it's really, really important when we have these conversations that we've got all of these policies. Again, everything goes back to policy. All right. And if the policies are bad and ineffectual, it doesn't matter what they sound like. But people get caught up and they're like, oh, well, it sounds good. It sounds good. So we'll just go along with it. And we got to stop that. We gotta stop that. Also, we got no more plastic straws in New York State. I hate New York State having all of these stupid paper straws. The paper straws taste terrible. They give me a headache. I can't even use them like that. I hate paper straws. They should be illegal. You know, I heard that they got all types of extra chemicals and stuff in there. I believe it because whenever I use one, it always gives me like a headache. And it makes your drinks taste weird. So you know it's all getting you all types of chemicals. But this is what's going on. Poor policy. No plastic bags, right? But everybody's out there wearing a diaper on their face with these face masks. That's even worse. That's like wearing, what do you call it? Fiberglass on your face and then talking about, oh, we're going to get rid of plastic bags. You're going to get rid of plastic bags, but you got all of these ridiculous things that have more plastic. On average, one plastic bag has how can I say it? One mask that you use for a face mask, like those regular stupid ones, one of those masks has enough plastic in it for 5 to 10 plastic bags. That's crazy to me. That's just a crazy fact. But they'll try those out and they'll get rid of the plastic bags. Make it make sense to me. Bring back plastic straws. If I was governor, that'd be the first thing that I'd do. I'd get rid of that nonsense. And yeah, the government literally is corrupt. Most of these poor policies come from the government getting kickbacks or money going into their cousin's account, or they're invested in some business or whatever. Like, go look up the Buffalo Billions scandal with Kathy Hochul, our governor, her husband, and we never found out where that money went to. What happened with that money? You know what I'm saying? But we're supposed to think, oh, well, she should be great for re-election. Who's voting for her? She can't never have my vote. First of all, she's anti-Christian. She played in our face during COVID, went into a church and said, oh, the Lord spoke to me and he said that everybody should get those shots. Excuse me? I had a word I wanted to say about her, but I won't share it. You know, I said, excuse me? Who are you to say that you speak for the Lord when you do crazy, corrupt, shady, distasteful stuff all the time? And as far as I know, you don't even know the Lord. And then she got her little necklace on there talking about vaxxed. Okay, vaxxed. Okay, like it's an idol and stuff like that. I had a run-in with one of my city council members the other day. We had a conversation about some ridiculous laws that they had passed where they made it so that men can be in the bathroom with little girls and women in pool settings, in dressing rooms, in showers, in different places in the city, like pools for the city. Like, why are men able to be in the bathroom with women and little girls? Make it make sense. In shower facilities. Somebody went out their way, because that's what it says in the law, shower facilities. I've never used the term shower facility in my life before this came up. Like, that's crazy to me. Hit the like button, hit the share button. It don't cost you nothing. You are tuned into The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. We are here in your ear on WRFZ 106.3 FM. Thank you for tuning in. We are here from 2:30 to 4 p.m. So you're kicking it live. Hit that share button, hit them likes. I want to see them likes. Drop some more comments. Even if you just drop a heart or a thumbs up in the comment, that's awesome and that's all helpful. Let's see. Somebody else has a comment. I'm sorry, I'm not at Sharon K. Sharon K says, Washington State makes us pay 8 cents for each bag we use. It's about money, not about our planet. You are 100% right. They don't care about the planet, because if they did care about the planet, they wouldn't be pushing all of these solar panels and wind turbines and nonsense on us. Okay. You guys, look into how they manufacture the solar panels and look into how they manufacture the freaking I don't even know what you want to call them. I guess they call them windmills, but they're trash. You know what I'm saying? Like they're barely able to be considered windmills even. That's a whole separate conversation. But yeah, the windmills and the solar panels, go look into that. Go look into the supply chain in for both of those items and look at how much concrete it requires for that, just for a windmill. Look at how much it costs diesel to create them and bring them over here and transport them and stuff like that. Those things are huge. Okay, like they're doing massive amounts of damage to our environment and our ecosystem with those things. And then talk about mining for the resources and the precious metals that need to go into solar panels, but we can't have that conversation. Why? Why? It's all about the money. Sharon K, you're 100% right. They don't care about the environment. They only care about the money. Let's see, who's that? Shaylin, is that you? Okay. Shaylin says the city of Rochester is corrupt. The city of Rochester is corrupt. The county's corrupt. The state's corrupt. It's all corrupt. We need a clear house. It's a very, very serious thing. And they don't represent the people. And it's not everybody, right? Like it's not everybody. But like I said earlier, largely it's the people that are Democrats that won't even challenge their own party. Like, here's the deal. I'm a conservative constitutionalist. I believe in the constitutionalist, 10 toes down. I'm not moving off that square. That's the foundational principles of our nation. Okay. I'm very big on that. I am a foundational Republican. I believe in foundational Republican principles. Anybody that varies from that and strays from that in the party, I'm not a big fan of. Okay. Y'all take that woke right stuff out the door. Y'all take that rhino stuff out the door. You take that light right stuff out the door. You know what I'm saying? If y'all not familiar with the light right, it's those people that are really more Democrats than they are Republicans that try to come into the Republican Party. They're like, oh, well, we're Republican, and slowly try to get us to move our standpoint and our vision of what our party is about over to the left more and more and more. They're working operations kind of like the communists worked on the Democrats, and I'm not with any of it. So I call out every time I see it. We cannot corrode and erode the morals and values of our party for these people to try to welcome these people in. I don't want them to become members of the Republican Party. If they're mad at the Democrat Party, leave. Go be an independent. Unless you have conservative values, unless you value small government, you want to shrink the government, you think the government's trash, so there should be less government. You believe in family, okay? And if you believe those two things, you might kind of be possibly a Republican. You understand what I'm saying? But the fact of the matter is, more of these people in the Democrat Party are not Republicans. They just need to stand up against the other Democrats or switch to independent. But I'm not trying to open the doors and let everybody in the Republican Party, because that's how your message gets watered down. If we're not built on a firm foundation, if we're not formed on the rock, the solid rock, preferably the rock of Jesus Christ, okay, hallelujah, God bless, then what are we doing as a party? We're just getting the same shifting morals as the Democrat Party, and that's why they went from being pro-gun and against all of this other crazy stuff that they are now for. Like, we're not about to do that in the Republican Party. So this is a serious situation that we're facing right now. So when I talk about what's going on where I live, understand I'm talking about it because there are no Republicans in office here in New York State. They recover everything. I mean, the Democrats are in charge of everything. Excuse me. Let's see. Shaylin says Letitia James has been charged with a felony. She should not have access to state property or the database. Listen, she's been in there doing everything but her job this whole time. I'm not a big fan. And that's me putting it nicely. Okay. Hit the like button, y'all. Hit the share button. Drop some comments. Okay. Be part of the conversation. And hit that heart button. I see a ton of y'all watching. It's like 100 and some of y'all watching. And I don't see that many hearts. Every single heart, every single comment helps kick the algorithm to get it out to more people. So do that for me real quick. Help us out. And hit that retweet button because it don't cost you nothing. So talking about Letitia, okay, she's a problem. She's always been a problem, though. She's done everything but her job. Where are the white collar criminals that she's going after? No, I ain't seen not near one of them. You understand what I'm saying? None of them. Okay. Where is the corruption inside the government agencies that she's going after? None. Nobody. The comptroller, what's his name? Tom DiPoliano, De Nepatali, or whatever his name is. He said the state is missing a whole bunch of money. Where'd the money go? No, nobody know. Anybody going to jail for that, Leticia? No. You know, like, these are the crazy things. And she's been out there saying, oh, well, let's put this law first. Let's put this law out there. Let's put this law. First of all, ma'am, you are not a legislative person. You are supposed to be part of the court system. Okay, you are supposed to be a law officer. You don't have any business pushing any policy and legislation. That goes completely against what you're supposed to be doing. That's, to me, just the same thing as when they vote on their own raises. How you vote on your own raise? That's crazy to me. Then we wonder why it goes up and up and up and up and up. It's crazy. It's crazy. Let's see. We got a whole bunch of crazy stuff. Yep. IDK. Thank you, IDK. Yep. And yeah, Kathy does do blasphemy all the time. Let's see. Bring back the psych wards. We need to have a conversation about that soon. Okay. I'm going to go through a couple of more of these comments, and then we're going to get into the next section here. Let's see. Shaylin says, she has connections to the city of Rochester. This woman should not be active. I agree with you. I'm, again, not a fan of Leticia James. Okay. She's done everything but her job in there. Okay. Yep. Rhinos are bad. That's right. The Democrats, let's see. What's that say? Sharon K says, the Democrats of old were not like these new Democrats. They might be for switching parties. That might be why they're switching parties. Okay, let's talk about that for a second. That is why a lot of Democrats are switching parties, because they're not like these new Democrats, which are far left. A lot of this stuff shouldn't fly, and it's just going unabated. Like, people aren't even talking about the craziness that's going on right now, you know, and it's all back to policy. If we're not holding, I know you guys, I know nobody wants to hold elected officials accountable. Excuse me. I know nobody wants to hold elected officials accountable. I know nobody wants to tack on them for the policies, but man, these people come out here every year that they run, they promise us a whole bunch of stuff. Half of the time, it's not even able for them to do because it's outside of their office. You understand what I'm saying? Like, their office doesn't have anything to do with it. We had some people run for city council a couple years ago, and they were out there promising free healthcare for everyone. You can't even do that from your station in that office. Like, what are you even talking about? You have no control over that. So policies matter, and we need to be holding these people accountable. I know nobody wants to do that, but that's why I'm fighting so darn hard, because somebody has to, because for real. But like Sharon K says, a lot of people are switching parties because of that. I want them all to go independent. Like, unless you are really conservative, you believe in the Bible, you believe in scripture, you are for shrinking the government, you know, you should not be a Republican. And that's a full stop. Okay? Because that's not anything to do with Republicans. That's, you want to be an independent, or you want to go form another party, or whatever you want to do, go do that. But don't come over here with your nonsense. Keep your nonsense over there. If you want to change the Democrat Party, change the Democrat Party. They're super trash right now. And nobody pushes back inside their own party. Like, I know somebody who, I can't remember who it was that said it earlier. Maybe it was Shaylin. But she's like, oh, they're all corrupt here. They're not pushing back. Like, I know people in the Democrat Party that are deep in there, and they won't speak up because they're scared of what Albany or downstate in New York City, what they're going to say, because those are the people who actually control everything. They're the ones that are manipulating everything. And that's why I want to shrink the government, because the government be doing too much. Places that are nowhere near us have far too much control over us. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Let's see. IDK says it's not even safe to have a family in Rochester. First of all, I'm not happy with your laughing faces, but honestly, you're not wrong because of the poor policies that we have in the city of Rochester. First off, we're a sanctuary city. They've made it so that all the illegal aliens can do whatever they want. They've put into the sanctuary city laws for people that are cross dressers or are mentally ill and believe that they're the opposite gender, talking about, oh, they can just do whatever they want and be in the bathrooms with small children, which is weird. Okay, because that's weird. We're not going to go into that too deep today, but that's if clearly they are either perverted or they are having a mental delusional state that you are actually upholding and supporting, and they need to be in a psych ward. Whoever said reopen psych wards, okay, they need to be in a psych ward. They need medication, something like that. I'm not a big medication person. I'm more of a counseling type of person. They need counseling. They need a hug. They need a good preacher, a good pastor, a father, or somebody to talk to them. You know what I'm saying? But clearly they're mentally disturbed and they're out of touch with reality. That's why I tell people all the time, I'm not going to participate in your psychosis. Why would I participate in that delusion? But they shove that in sanctuary city laws. So it's good for the delusional people. It's good for the illegal aliens. But in the meantime, our city is not a sanctuary for our actual law-abiding citizens and our families. Make it make sense. And again, it goes back to policy. This is these Democrat policies that are running amok here. They're destroying our economy. They're trying to push everything to draw people in from other wealthier states like California and stuff. The people that are coming out of there, they're trying to pull them over here. We don't need those people here. No offense. We don't need any more transplants. The transplants that we have here have caused enough trouble with our housing market. So why would you try to bring more of them here? And people are struggling. Again, this is Democrat policy, destroying us here locally. Why are they pushing to bring transplants into our city to destabilize our housing market? And they advertise to these people. They put these fake little articles in these newspapers that don't even exist for anything but propaganda, talking about Rochester's the best city in the universe. Okay? Everything's great in Rochester. These are the news articles that they put out there. You might have seen them. Okay? The best housing market in the universe. Why are you destroying our housing market? Like, people are out here struggling every single day, and y'all trying to change up and make the housing prices more and more and more. Who's really pushing that? And our elected officials here are just going along with it because they're getting kickbacks from it. They know what time it is, and none of them will speak up against it. Make it make sense. And again, it's a shame that I got to keep saying this, but this is all the Democrats doing. So I encourage you, if you're a Democrat, start holding your Democrats accountable in your party. These are the people that are hurting you. I hear Democrats tell me all the time, well, I wouldn't vote conservative or I wouldn't vote Republican. Are you serious? Because the Democrats is bending you over with a rusty pole with spikes in it and they shoving it in and they ain't even offer you no lube or reach around. Make it make sense to me. Make it make sense to me. They doing you real raw and dirty right now. And you're not even getting anything out of it in a positive way. So when you say, oh, well, I wouldn't vote Republican or I wouldn't vote conservative, why? Why? Give it a chance. Because clearly these people aren't servicing you. And that's the end of the day. This is why I'm very serious about local elections and why I'm very serious about the state level. Because that's where you can really effectuate change. All of this federal level and stuff like that, that's its own whole other problem. But here locally, city council, you can go out to a city council meeting, school board, you can go out to a school board meeting, county legislature, you can go out to a county leg meeting. You know what I'm saying? These are the places where we need more people to get active. And I don't care what party you are. If you believe that you have some good sense in your head, you need to start standing up and pushing back against the nonsense that is being done. Let's see. We got some more comments here. We got the comments are streaming in. Yeah, they was to say they're turning mental illness into human rights. Yeah, it's despicable. It's despicable. Somebody says independent is the way to go. Sharon K says independent is the way to go. It honestly, remember, our nation was supposed to not be about parties. It just turned that way. And if you guys follow me a lot You already know what my thoughts are on that. At the end of the day, the people in the power that are in the top of the pyramids, they're all in it together. Okay, they all go to the same schools, they all go to the same banks, they're married into each other's families. They're the people that are the what do you call them, in the wedding parties at these other people's events and stuff like that. That's why you see like Trump is in with Hillary Clinton, or Hillary Clinton is at Mitch McConnell's daughter's wedding, and all of this crazy stuff. All of this crazy stuff because they're an elite group of individuals, and that's not hurting on nobody, right? That's just the fact that these people are the elite that are the ruling class over all of us. So it's no reason for them to have our best interests at heart. That's why we have a representative government. Okay. That means that they're supposed to represent us. And if they're not doing what we want, we're supposed to hold them accountable. That's what the First Amendment is about. People are like, oh, it's about freedom of press. No, it's not. It ain't got nothing to do with the news. The First Amendment has nothing to do with news, y'all. Let me be very clear on that. Okay. They're like, oh, it's about freedom of speech. No, it's not. Y'all not reading good. Okay, I know reading comprehension is very difficult in our country, but people have also been taught wrong about our Constitution. Okay, the most important part of the Constitution that people often forget is the Constitution says that it gives us the right to redress our grievances with our government. That is what the First Amendment is for. You have freedom of speech so you can redress your grievances with the government. You have freedom of the press so you can redress your grievances with the government. Okay, that's why you have the freedom of religious expression so you can redress your grievances with the government. But they try to convolute that all in different ways and stuff like that. But all of it is about accountability for the government. That's why we have it. But people are out here trying to take advantage of it, or they'll try to spin it a different way. Oh, it's for this, it's for that, it's for this. Oh, look at what they're doing to the media because they call themselves the press. You're not the press. Us as a freed people, we are the press. What do you mean? Okay. The freedom of press enables you to go and print out anything, write up something, print it out, and go distribute it. That is freedom of the press. Okay. Not some news station that's controlled by some corporation that's controlled by one guy who controls 5,000 other news stations. You understand what I'm saying? That's not freedom of the press. Like, that's nonsense. That's why you look at the TV and all of the channels say exactly the same stuff, sometimes exactly the same words. And it's terrifying. And we should be concerned. That's why so many people have stopped watching the news. You know, I saw they had about a year or so ago, all of those different, I don't know if you guys have seen them, all of the different clips where the different news stations were saying like exactly the same thing, and they like put them in a whole montage and they played it all, and you can hear them all talking individually, but they were all saying exactly the same thing. Like 2 of our news stations were in that montage in Rochester. Like 2 of our news stations. I don't know who created it. Some guy from the middle of nowhere. You know what I'm saying? But 2 of our news stations were there. So it shows you how far this goes. And then the government does whatever it can to manipulate the media for its own best interest. Come on now. Then you got private investors and stuff like that. That's why I'm telling you, freedom of press, this freedom of speech, all of these things that they're telling you about it is lies. It's lies. It's about redressing your grievances with your government. And that's why I always encourage you guys, you got to get active local. Real quick, hit that heart button, hit the thumbs up, drop some comments. It doesn't cost you nothing. Even if you just say, hey, I'm watching. Hey, I like your show. Or tell me you don't like the show. I don't care what you say. Drop some comments. Okay. And share it on your page, your friend's page, your enemy's page. Share it everywhere in some groups and all that. Let's hit a couple of these other questions because I want to talk about the economy in a second here. Let's see. IDK says, like people can identify as dogs now. Don't even get me started on that nonsense. Because people can identify as dogs. Speaking of which, did you guys see the illegal alien that was arrested? I don't remember what state it was in, but they had a driver's license, a CDL driver's license from New York State. And the CDL driver's license said no name given. And then the New York State government said, yeah, we issued that license. You issued a license that says no name given? Can I get one of those? Y'all got one of those? Y'all got one of them licenses that says no name given on it? I want one of those because I would prefer to have my anonymity. You know what I'm saying? Which is another thing that the government is stealing away from us right now as they continue to creep more and more and more towards the surveillance state. Again, it's not about who's in office at the top of the pyramid or the president or whatever. This is just the government governmenting. That's what they do, consolidation of power. That's why we need to shrink the government. Let's go on the next one. What we got here? Because I do want to get into a couple of other things. Sharon K says, I vote Republican because they hold more of my values. If the Democrats would come back to the party of common sense, I might vote for them. And that's good. That's good, Sharon. But this is the problem, right? Like, they're not. And none of them are standing up against the crazies in their party. And that's very, very concerning. Let's see. IDK says, I really hate how easy it is to access drugs too, because then you have families that get lost into it. That's 100% true. We do have a very serious issue, especially on the local level here with drugs in Rochester. And I know in many of you guys that are in other cities, you guys see it too. What happens is we have such lackluster laws that people can deal these drugs, people can traffic these drugs. There are no task forces that are going after these drug traffickers or these drug dealers. We're lucky if after 2-3 years they lock up one drug dealer, you know, and I'm being a little bit hyperbolic, but the fact of the matter is the level of drugs that are pervading our streets right now is insane, especially in Rochester. Now, I did read a report the other day that overdoses have gone down 41%. You know who's to thank for that? Donald Trump. And I know a lot of you guys are going to be like, he said Donald Trump, Orange Man, no. But the fact of the matter is he's really done a lot of work to secure the border. And we've had a lot of horrible chemicals, specifically fentanyl, coming through the border. And now that's stopped so much that up here where I live in New York State, our rates of overdose have dropped drastically. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. But, you know, people talk bad about everything and can't give credit to nobody. It's so disgusting, makes me want to spit. And that's a serious problem because, you know, you ain't got to like everybody, but sometimes credit where credit is due. You know, somebody says, oopsie, sometimes independence is hard because of poverty. Well, you know, that's also another part of the problem is the government has created this massive amount of poverty through inflation. You know, if you listen to anybody talk from any party, they're always like, oh, we need to get inflation under control. Absolutely not. I don't want you to get it under control. I want you to have deflation. Deflation. Let me get real close and up in personal with the microphone real quick. You guys, what we really need is deflation in our nation. What happens is when the dollar has inflation, that is stealing away your wealth, even if you do not know it. That's why they say, oh, well, we should raise minimum wage because the dollar isn't paying enough for what we need to buy anymore. Well, that's because of inflation. Even a little bit of inflation causes the value of your dollar to lessen. So if that's the case, we need deflation. I want my dollar to be more powerful than any other currency in the world. I want to be able to work at whatever the minimum wage is now. What's the minimum wage in New York State? $17 an hour or something like that. I want to be able to work at whatever the minimum wage is, and I want to be able to raise 2 kids. You know what I'm saying? Without any assistance from the government. That's what I want. And that's what everybody deserves. It's not about a living wage. It's about the value of the dollar. If we actually look and assess the value of the dollar over just, let's say, since 2000, we are up like 200% worth of inflation, you know, depending on how you use it. But if you use like what, let's say the Big Mac index, right? Like we're up almost 2 times the amount of the cost of a Big Mac. You know, like, I mean, these are the cheeseburger index, you know, they've got these different little funny little indexes that they use to measure real inflation based off of common everyday products, you know, but we really need to have a conversation about that. So when they're like, oh, well, it's only 2% inflation. Well, 2% inflation for 4 quarters. OK, that's compound interest, too, you guys. That's not like just 2% plus 2% plus 2% plus 2%. It's not 8%. It's 2% to the, I guess you'd say, the fourth power, essentially. Okay, and that math doesn't quite math out, but that's essentially what it is. Compound interest is a little bit different, but to get you thinking in your head, that's the best way I could describe it simply. And that's why we have so many issues in our economy right now, you know? So I'm going to get into this. I'm really about to dig into this deep real quick, but I want to hit the rest of these conversations real quick. Let's see what we got. They don't teach the Constitution in RCSD like that. You're 100% right. That's why I actually do civics classes and stuff like that at the libraries and stuff. I teach those. So coming up soon, I'm going to be doing a fundraiser for my nonprofit. It's called the REMA Institute. We teach civics education, basic financial literacy, and do small group empowerment. We want to expand into a couple of other things, but that's what our main focus is right now. So we'll be doing a fundraiser soon. I'll keep y'all posted. Make sure you're following my page or subscribe to my page. Let's see. For real, trying to create chips when kids are born. Oh yeah. That the surveillance state is coming. The digital ID, it's coming. We'll talk about that a little later. What do we got here? To have everything in their ID and payment systems. Yup, you're right. Let's see. Sharon K says we also need more mental facilities and drug facilities for these people that need it. You know, one of the big issues with the drug facilities, and that's one of Kathy Hochul's big pushes for New York State, because all of the jobs are going away. So one of hers is drug rehabilitation counseling that she wants to dig into. It's like 15, 20 different types of jobs, industries that she wants to dig into because all the jobs are going away. She promised everybody free college, but now it's only for like those 15 different things. Or if you're an illegal alien, then you can get free college. Don't get me started. But when it comes to drug and alcohol rehabilitation, we need to make sure that it's Christ-centered. I know some people are, oh, Jesus. Yeah, why are you hating on Jesus? You know, Jesus loves you. Jesus wants a personal relationship with you so that he can lead you to the Lord our Father. Like, what's wrong with you? Why are you so mad at Jesus? Go read the Bible. Jeez. Like, even if you don't like or don't believe and aren't a faithful follower, like, you just mad? Like, how are you mad at Jesus? You know? But anyway, it's been shown statistically that when people are most successful in drug rehabilitation or alcohol rehabilitation, it's always the ones that are religious focused. If there's no religion in it, which gives you the thought of a power that's greater than your own, then people fall off and it's not practical. Hit that like button, hit the share button. It's not going to cost you nothing. And help me get this message out there. Somebody said, have you heard about many of the drug overdoses and help someone with their drug addiction to get them off drugs? Yeah, I do that sometimes. I do have if you guys aren't familiar, I don't like toot my own horn or anything like that very often. But yeah, I do help with drug and alcohol addiction sometimes. I grew up in a family where I had a lot of family members that were in relation to drug and alcohol therapy. They were either people who had succumbed to it or people that were actually those individuals that counseled people through that type of situation. So, and I still do that stuff from time to time. I like to try to not do it as much as I used to because it's very, very, very stressful, you know, and I appreciate everybody that's willing to do that work. Let's see. Yeah, somebody said an hour of work just to get like 2 dozen eggs, bread, and milk. Yep, you're right. So now let's jump into this economy thing because this is the important part. Hit that like button, hit the share button. Let's get it out there. Now, with the economy, you guys, please listen to this. I'm not able to tell you more than what this is. This is so very important. So please share this right now. In the economy right now, we have a lot of big bankers, right? A lot of big bankers. I'm not here with you to argue over who owns the banks or what the banks are up to. The banks are always up to no good and against the best interests of the people because they charge too much interest. And interest is illegal. It's called usury. And we used to have laws in the United States against usury because it strips away the wealth of the people. And that's a very serious problem. But, you know, since we've become more secularized as a nation, interest rates are ridiculous. And people say, oh, well, it's not as high interest as it used to be. Yeah, but the value of the dollar is less. So technically, it's actually considerably more. So let's be real. But talking about the economy currently, we have all of these big bankers that are starting to sound the alarm, saying that something serious is coming. A couple months ago, what's his name? Jamie Dimon, the CEO of Chase, JP Morgan Chase. Okay, I like Jamie Dimon a little bit. You know what I'm saying? For who he is, for where he is, he tells a lot of truth and gives out a lot of good information. So I respect him a lot. But he said, everybody's out here worried about buying this and buying that and buying gold and things like that. You need to buy guns and bullets. I said, what, Jamie? I said, we need to buy guns and bullets. Jamie, what's coming? What do you know is about to happen? What's going on, Jamie? Tell me something. Listen, make it real plain, because a lot of us out here, we might seem a little bit slow. We need you to put that out in real words. What are you talking about? We shouldn't be worried about buying gold and stuff like that. We need to worry about buying guns and ammo. Now, this is the man who's in charge of one of the most powerful banks in the world. And that's what he's telling. That's his advice to the people. What is really going on, y'all? And we don't have these conversations, but we really need to. He just came out the other day and he said something else very scary. And this was just like 2 days ago. Might have been Thursday or Friday. Today's Monday. And he said, you guys, we're coming on a collapse where there's going to be a big redistribution of wealth and the economy is going to crash. I said, what? I said, Jamie. And he said, well, I don't mean the economy. I mean the stock market. And I'm like, Jamie, what are you talking about? Like, don't make jokes like that. He wasn't joking. Homeboy was dead serious. I'd like to interview Jamie Dimon one day because he's just got so much knowledge and information. Mr. Dimon, if you're listening to this, please reach out. Let's connect. I'd love to interview you for my other show sometime. Let's make that happen. But anyway, so he said that there's an impending stock market collapse, and then I wake up today and I'm looking at the 60 Minutes stream in my phone. 60 Minutes is like, there was a dark day and the stock market crashed in 1929. What? Where is this coming from? Hello? Look, where are my binoculars? Where is this coming from all of the sudden? So it's in there. I think I saw something in the New Yorker last week where they're trying to prime us and let us know that something really crazy is about to happen to the stock market. And I really wonder what the trigger is going to be. Now, we talked about a week or so ago about the possibility of the revaluation of the dollar and the purposeful collapse of the American dollar and the reattachment to the valuation of gold. So I'm not going to really harp on that and dig too deep in that, but I will cover it in a couple seconds for those who weren't here last week when we talked about it. Now, the question is, where's our gold, y'all? Whatever happened to that investigation of Fort Knox? Do any of y'all know? I remember, and I've talked about this many times since Trump came and said, we're going to look at where the gold is in the Fort Knox. We're going to make sure all the gold is there. Make sure all the gold is there. I want to see it. Where is the gold? I'd like to go myself and test each bar. I wouldn't like to do that because that'd be a long feat unless there's just no gold in there. That would be, like, I don't know, man. Depends on how much they pay me. I wouldn't have a problem doing it. But the fact of the matter is this. As we have this important conversation about where is our gold is our value of the dollar. And it is our value, I shouldn't even say of the dollar, is our worth as a nation, right? Because that's our backup. And I don't remember exactly what the dollar amount is that our gold is valued at, but it's like $42 or something like that. And it hasn't been reevaluated for decades. And I think right now we're at like, I don't know, like $4,000. Like, those numbers aren't right. I don't have the gold numbers in front of me, but if somebody would drop them in the comments, I'd be really happy to pop them up on the screen. What is the gold that we currently have held and valued at? And what is the current price of gold actual? Drop that in the comments. But here's the thing. Why aren't we checking out where the gold is? Now let's dig back into this. So according to the different people that are in the gold markets and different people that follow the stocks and trading and stuff like that, excuse me, and different people that follow that type of stuff all the time, they're setting up warning flares. They're letting us know something serious is coming. And I've been warning you guys about the digital currency for some years. And with this push for digital ID, and I know IDK was talking about that earlier. I talk about that all the time, but I've been warning you guys about that too. This is all a push to control the people even ever more. So as we move towards this digital dollar, okay, a digital currency, right now it's not currently pegged to anything. It's pegged to the dollar, which is fiat currency, which has no base. Sharon, I see your comment. We'll get there in a second. So it's pegged to the dollar itself. So if we digitalize all the currency, and then all of a sudden we cripple the digital currency by revaluating the dollar, okay, based on revaluating how much our gold is worth that we have and we hold in our nation's depositories, okay, that means that a whole bunch of people are going to get wiped off the map real quick as far as their financial stability. And that's a serious issue. And then they reevaluate the gold and then they peg the dollar back to the gold. First of all, that's like some mastermind level bull jive right there. You know what I'm saying? Like that's some real like, I don't know, man. You really kind of a bad guy if that was what you wanted to do, but it's also kind of not a terrible move. Somebody said, yeah, yep, it was 41,000 400 $4,100 an ounce. Yeah, can you tell me what the old gold was valued at? I believe it's $42. Okay. But yeah, so it's important that we actually look at what's happening with the digitalization of the dollar. And I encourage you guys, please go look up the FedNow app. It allows any digital transaction that you do. That means when you go tap and pay, when you go swipe your card, it allows the government to immediately be the intermediary between your money and whoever you paying. So that means if they don't want you to go shop at Bob's Auto Mart today, that means if you try to swipe your card at Bob's Auto Mart, it will say you can't spend your money there. Okay. And they're going to start tying these things to the digital ID and carbon taxes and stuff like this. You've used up too much of your allotment of carbon this month. So now you can't buy anything else. There's crazy stuff like that. And I don't have time to go into it the way I'd like to today because I'd like to touch on a couple of other subjects. But please go look that stuff up. And remember what I always say. Don't believe me because I'm saying it. Believe me because I'm telling you. I'm telling you directly. I'm not just talking into the air. Let's jump into one of these other conversations. We'll come right back to that. Let's see. Sharon K says, where is that $5,000 that was said to be coming up? I never asked for the money, but where is it? So she's talking about the money that Trump said might be coming from the actual tariffs. So we are bringing in a lot of money from the tariffs right now. And you guys know I'm a big tariff person. I don't think that we should be building or taking or buying or getting anything from any other countries. They can all collapse and fall off the map as far as I'm concerned. No offense. Okay. But I believe that internally is where we need to make, harvest, and source all of our materials and products. Okay. That's why tariffs are important, because while it does increase the prices on some things, it also does encourage internal production. And that's what we need if we're going to work to stabilize our economy even a little bit, because what people don't realize is when Obama made it worse though. When Clinton put in NAFTA, they sent all our jobs overseas. Okay. And when they sent all the jobs overseas, the wealth of our nation started to go overseas also, because now we don't have that production. And if we were a worker nation that was a consumerist nation, and if the consumers don't have no money to buy nothing, how can we consume? You understand what I'm saying? Like, that's basic common sense. Like, you don't have to be an economist to understand that if the people that consume have no money to buy things, they can't consume, period, point blank. And that's a lot of what we're going through. And they'll talk about, consumer confidence and this, that, and the third, and da, 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 da. But that's why that type of stuff is being eroded, because more so and more so, people don't have as much dollars that they can stretch to buy more stuff. That's why we see certain things that were considered more so luxury are now going to the wayside because people just don't have the ability to focus on spending on those things because they're out there struggling to keep rent, food, water, and lights. You know what I'm saying? Not to mention transportation or trying to get your kid to school or anything like that. It's important. So when we have these conversations, we really, really have to have serious conversations on this. IDK says you agree with me on everything I'm saying. You have a good day too. Please make sure you let more people know about our show. So this is important. We have to have those hard conversations. Going back to the tariffs that Sharon K talked about and the $5,000. I want the $5,000 too. You know, cut me a check. I really wish that we could make it so that we can get rid of income tax and only have an external tax, you know? No income tax, only external tax, meaning that we're only doing tariffs. So instead of an internal revenue department, we only have an external revenue department. The internal revenue department is fake anyway. That's a whole separate conversation for somebody else to talk about. I don't really like to dig into that conversation and topic. Maybe at some other point we'll do a show on it, but that's nonsense. There's nowhere that really requires you to pay federal taxes. That's a whole nother conversation. Also, I'm not big on income tax. If you made the money, if you earned the money, if you worked hard for the money, you should be able to keep all your money. There's enough taxes on everything else anyway. Businesses got taxes. You get tolls or taxes, fines or taxes. You get taxed when you go to the store and you buy stuff. You know, it's crazy. Drink water, stay hydrated. But it's crazy. And we need to have these types of important conversations. But nobody's having that. Something dreadful is coming for our economy really soon. And I hope it's not. I hope it's not. Hands up, hands of God. I hope it's not. I pray that it doesn't. And if it does, I pray that myself and all of you are insulated from it. Because whatever happens, it's going to be real and it's going to be serious. And I hope we can avoid the worst of it. But it's very clear that our elected officials don't care. And we're also in the I guess you should say that we're in the situation of where AI is coming very quickly. And the people that are in Washington that do those numbers, like the Office of Budget and Management and was it the Central Budget Office? Congressional Budget Office, that they're like, yeah, man, AI is going to take like 60% of the jobs. Everybody's going to be out of a job. How are we going to absorb that much? We don't have the social services and the social safety net to support that. If that many people, if 15% of the people in America lost their job in the next 15 months, okay, we don't have the social safety nets to do anything about that. And they're talking about AI's coming for 60% of the jobs in the country in the next 4 years. What are we doing? What are we doing? And everybody's going on like everything is normal, everything is the same, until it's going to come up and bite us in the behind. Everything is not normal. Everything is not the same. We need to be preparing for the future that we have now. That's why I encourage you guys to get active locally, because locally is where you can start working on insulating yourself from what's coming. Like I talk about the surveillance and stuff that's going on. I'm pushing in my local area, my city, that they stop using biometric scanning and stuff in our city. Okay, so that means gate detection, no gate detection, that's how you walk. That means no facial recognition, no what do you call it? No retina scanning, anything like that, no blood vessel scanning, none of that. They even have this new thing where the Wi-Fi can figure out that it's you based on the way that you walk. Like you don't have to be attached or connected to anything. They just use Wi-Fi signals, similar to like, think of like sonar, how it bounces out, or echolocation, like with a bat. And it's down to 90, was it 92, 95? It's between 92 and 95% accuracy that it can tell that you are you. That's terrifying. And we should all be very concerned about what's going on. And I know people are like, oh, well, they're always spying on us all the time. Anyways, that don't mean that they should do it more. It doesn't mean that we should just go along and let them do it. We should be fighting them in what is it? Fighting them in the plains, fighting them in the hills, fighting them in the halls. You know what I'm saying? Like we should not be allowing this to go on. And it starts locally. So I'd encourage you to try to push for some legislation to prevent that where you are. I just saw, I'm not sure where it was. It was Florida somewhere. One of the Floridian, one of the Floridian counties, and they got some automated police vehicle that has drones. Like the police vehicle, the police car don't even need a police officer in it, and it's got drones that it just launches the drones. Absolutely not. And I'm a big supporter of the police. Absolutely not. I don't want no autonomous police cars with no autonomous drones. Okay. Are you serious? You know how dangerous that is for us as humans? Like, I don't think that you guys, a lot of people are thinking through how dangerous that is and the push towards totalitarian authoritarianism. And I was talking to somebody that's a professor of this stuff the other day, and he's like, authoritarianism and totalitarianism aren't quite the same, or whatever the case is. Bro, at this point, they're essentially the same, and the difference that he was explaining was very small. But he was like, yeah, essentially in the totalitarianism, you have, it's like almost a little bit of freedom, and in authoritarianism, there's none. And I'm like, that's the same thing. Same thing. For all intents and purposes, for me, for you guys out there, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. But either way, we're marching down that path to both of them right now. So letting the police have autonomous vehicles with autonomous drones, that's crazy. I remember a couple of years ago, I think maybe we're 10, maybe 15 years ago now, when they blew up the guy in Texas, and I believe it was Dallas, that was in the parking lot. They blew him up with a robot then. And I was like, nope, that's what we're not doing. That's what we're not doing. And since then, Obama blew up the whole Middle East with drones. Since then, they even got the little teeny drones that'll chase you down hallways and stuff like that and blow you up. Like, you guys, we are in a very serious situation, and we need to do everything that we can to avoid the direction that we're going. Okay? And this is a very, very, very serious problem. Okay? We need to stand up now. If we don't stand up against what's coming, what's really already here, we've seen the little stupid drone, sentinel-looking drones that are look like a giant garbage can, of R2-D2 type of thing in New York City, going down the street and stuff like that. We do not want that. We do not need that. And you guys, we got to stand up now, or it's going to be a permanent fixture. And as they push towards the digital ID is going to have all of your information, and they're going to sell it to you like it's a convenience, but it's not. It's just so that they can surveil you more easily, and all of your information is all in one place so that they can gather more information about you simply and predict your every movement. The easier you are to predict for them, the easier it is to control you. And with AI, the more data that it has on you, the more that the AI can act as the hand of God, making small movements and motions to lead you into a direction that you might not have ever even gone into if it didn't poke and prod you there and you didn't even realize it. So we need to have those serious conversations now, not later. Digital ID is here. They're trying to push it in England right now. Keir Starmer, the prime minister over there, is like, yeah, we're going to have digital ID for everybody by the time this parliament session ends. Now, I don't know when the parliament session ends, but I believe it ends in December. Okay? So it's real quick coming soon. And he said, you won't be able to work without digital ID. What? I read a book about that. Where's my Bible? It says right in there, it says you will not be able to buy or sell without the mark of the beast. Well, that's right what they're pushing for. That's right what they're pushing for. And then you hear him talk about it. He's like, yeah, you can even get your shopping loyalty points on there. What? My shopping loyalty points on a digital ID? Man, listen, y'all better wake up and see what's happening. And they're trying to push this in the United States as well. What they're doing over there is going to start over there, then it's going to come over here. They're doing that in the whole European Union also, as a matter of fact. And if you're an American going over there, I believe it starts in January. It might start before that, but they are requiring you to have one of those. And they want to scan your face. They want to scan your fingerprints. They want to scan all of that. So we need to wake up now. And we need to prevent it from coming over here, because they're already starting it here in New York State. Remember that COVID digital ID card that they wanted to push on everybody? That was just a test phase. COVID was a test phase for a lot of the stuff that's going on, that we're witnessing, and that's coming up on right now. And that's why we need to pay attention to what's being done, what's been done, and the direction and the focus that's happening. Because if we're not doing it, nobody else is paying attention. Hit the like button, hit the heart button real quick. It don't cost you nothing. Share this out there, because this is a conversation that we need to be having more of. You know, and when we look at it again, all of this goes back to power and control. Now imagine they got all of your records, all of where you go, all of who you talk to, all of this, and they're tracking all of the money that you're spending. How much freedom do you have? How much autonomy do you have? You understand? Like, those are the serious conversations we need to have. But nobody is having those serious conversations right now. Why? Why? This should be on like every news. Like, I don't care. Like, I know everybody's like, oh, peace in the Middle East, finally. Yeah, good. Let's see how long it lasts. Okay, good. That's good. Gaza's there. Gaza's peace and stuff, and all the hostages are returned. Okay, great. But that is secondary to me when you're talking about digital ID. Okay? Like, I feel like, and I know somebody's going to say something about this, but I really feel like the timing of this is very opportune for these other people to launch this digital ID. Because right now, because this is happening and it's a really big deal and it's a really positive thing, they can just sneak all of that other stuff in there without it even really being covered by the news. Now, I'm not saying that they aligned them together or anything, but when you see something like that going on, you don't miss that opportunity. You know, that's crazy. And then especially that's how world governments and elites work. You're not going to give up a good, what does it say? Never let a good disaster go to waste, or something like that is the saying. And this is another big thing. Never let a good distraction go to waste. This is a huge distraction. This is a huge distraction. Yes, it's positive. Yes, it's a great global event. Yes, it's peace in the Middle East. But at the same time, it's such a big deal that all of these things that should be big deals too, like the digital ID being pushed through in England, that's not getting covered. That is a huge deal. That is a huge deal, but it's being overshadowed right now. And I can't even, I don't even know, because it's overshadowing everything right now. I don't even know half of what else is going on in the world right now. I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned, because whenever we have these big issues, they take up all of the news cycles, they take up everything else, and you can't even see or hear or have any type of thought on anything else. Like what's going on with Pakistan and Afghanistan right now? Like, they're in an active shooting conflict. They're almost in all-out war. Like that, why isn't that in the news? Like, that's serious. Like, that's very, very serious. And if you don't know, both Pakistan, okay, and India have been at it back and forth for some years. Well, forever. Pakistan used to be part of India. That's a whole, and Bangladesh, and that's a whole thing itself. But they're also both nuclear armed states. Now, Afghanistan is also attacking Pakistan. At the same time, they're having these other issues with India, and they're having internal conflicts with their partnership with China. So that's a powder keg. And that doesn't even bring in to the conversation anything that's going on in Iran. But that's happening right now. Right now. And Netanyahu just the other day said that we need to destroy and wipe Iran off of the map because they got nukes, and if they can hit the US or whatever the case is in the next couple of months, or some other nonsense, or whatever the case is. First of all, that's important. But again, that got wiped away and kind of scuttled under all of the great peace deal. Because again, it's such a big situation and an important deal that it just kind of Everything else falls underneath that. So now you got the issue with Iran and them trying to go blow up Iran with the same time Pakistan and Afghanistan are at each other's throats. You understand what I'm saying? Like there's a lot going on over there. And then again, back to the situation with England and the digital ID. But there's so much going on we're distracted from, which doesn't even talk about China and what China's got going on in the South China Sea right now. Or with the fact that it looks like Xi Jinping may be losing some power in China, which should be alarming to everybody. Because people like Xi Jinping and Putin and stuff like that, listen, they are not good people, right? But they are not the biggest hardliners in their country. And those are strongmen countries. So if Putin goes, if Xi Jinping goes, if either one of these people go, we run the risk of getting somebody real bad in there. And that'd be bad for all of us. So that looking at what's going on in China is something that's very interesting. We should keep an eye on. We also just had Trump talk about he's going to put 100% tariffs on China because China's over there acting a fool. Okay. But we're not talking about that again because peace in the Middle East. It's overshadowing everything because it's such a big deal. And I believe that that's a great thing. Don't get it twisted. I think that that's a great thing. We're not going to talk about the details, but the concept in general is a great thing. But again, it's overshadowing everything else. Going back to what we talked about in the country right now, we got this government shutdown. What's up with this government shutdown? Military's not being paid. Different departments are not being paid. All of this stuff is happening because the Democrats want to put in place free medical stuff for illegal aliens and fund foreign projects. Like, why are you stopping us from having a continuing resolution, which I'm not a fan of continuing resolutions, but it's a clean continuing resolution, by the way, but you're trying to stop that because you want medical for illegal aliens and to send money to all these other countries for these weird pet projects that you got. Again, all of this right now is being overshadowed by the peace in the Middle East, which again is a great big deal, but I am also concerned about everything else that's not in the news right now. So that's what I got for you guys this week. Please make sure that you hit the follow, hit the subscribe, hit the share button, get this message out there, drop some comments. If I don't see your comment now, I'll try to comment on it later. I'll catch you guys later. Remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action. All right, you guys. I want you guys to make sure that you're getting active locally wherever you are, because that's very, very, very important. We might not be able to change the whole world at one time, but we can start to change things locally. So wherever you live, in your township, in your holler, in your city, wherever it is, get active locally. Okay? Whether that means going to some city council meetings, town council, wherever you are, get active, go out, go see what's going on, fire district, school board, whatever, because nobody's going to tell you what's going on in these things. I go to city council all the time. I go to county ledge all the time. You'd be amazed at the crazy stuff that these people pass and the things that they do right under our nose. I can't even keep up with half of the stuff that the state does because the state does so much chicanery nonsense. Okay? We have to get active on the local level. The federal government is trying to put a boot down our throat, but more is the state level. Okay, the state level keeps kicking us in the neck, okay, and nothing is being done. We must stand up and get active, and you can make a real difference and real change. But you got to be the change. You got to get out. You got to get active. You got to get involved, even if it's just a little bit. Sometimes it's just as simple as going to a meeting or helping a good candidate that's running where you are locally. Okay? All of these things are very, very important because we are the people that our country is supposed to represent, but the government only represents itself. So that's why we have to hold the government accountable. That's why we have a representative republic. because it's up to us to make sure that they're representing our needs, our wants, our values. And when we don't do that, they do whatever they want. That's what I got for you guys. Make sure you're following and share this out everywhere. I'll catch you guys later. Remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action. Be blessed and be well.